Hollywood's most expensive ancient epic hides bizarre secrets that would make Commodus himself blush. From game show contest winners wandering the sets to million-dollar stars arriving at premieres on actual chariots, this 1964 colossal disaster contains production stories stranger than its on-screen palace intrigue. Here are the 15 weird facts you didn't know about the fall of the Roman Empire. Fact 1. Charlton Heston hated Sophia Loren so much he quit. One of Hollywood's biggest stars walked away from a major role because he simply couldn't stomach the idea of working with his leading lady again. Charlton Heston, fresh off his epic success in Ben-Hur, was originally set to star in the fall of the Roman Empire, alongside Sophia Loren, reuniting the pair from their previous collaboration on El Cid in 1961. But Heston had endured enough of Loren's demanding behavior during the filming of El Cid, particularly her insistence on being photographed from specific angles to showcase her nose in the most flattering way possible. The Italian actress was notorious for her fussy requirements about camera positioning and lighting, which frustrated Heston to the point where he refused to work with her ever again. When producer Samuel Bronston approached Heston about starring in the fall of the Roman Empire, the actor learned that Sophia Loren would once again be his leading lady. Despite the massive payday and the opportunity to work with acclaimed director Anthony Mann again, Heston immediately declined the role. His agent confirmed that Heston's dislike of Loren was so intense that no amount of money could persuade him to share the screen with her a second time. Heston's sudden departure left Bronston scrambling to find a replacement lead actor. The role was then offered to Kirk Douglas, who also turned it down, though for different reasons, including his dissatisfaction with the script. Eventually, Stephen Boyd was cast as the Roman general Livius, but Boyd lacked the star power and charisma that Heston would have brought to the role. This casting change had significant consequences for the film's commercial prospects, as Boyd simply couldn't draw audiences the way Heston could. The personal animosity between two major stars had created a domino effect that would ultimately contribute to one of Hollywood's most expensive box office disasters. Fact 2. The Forum set was recycled from another movie's graveyard. When Charlton Heston walked away from the fall of the Roman Empire, producer Samuel Bronston made one of the most wasteful decisions in Hollywood history, by literally tearing down sets that had already been built and paid for. The elaborate Roman Forum sets for the epic were already under construction at Bronston's Spanish production facilities when Heston decided he wouldn't work with Sophia Loren again, leaving the producer in a desperate situation. Rather than delay production or find a quick replacement, Bronston made the shocking decision to completely demolish the Roman Forum sets that had cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to build. He then ordered his construction crews to adapt the landscaping and foundation work for an entirely different movie called 55 Days at Peking, which starred Charlton Heston and told the story of the Boxer, Rebellion in China. The crews worked frantically to transform the Roman architecture into Chinese palaces and courtyards, essentially building the Forbidden City on top of what was supposed to be ancient Rome. This meant that the fall of the Roman Empire was put on hold while 55 Days at Peking went into production first, causing significant delays and additional costs for the Roman epic. After 55 Days at Peking finished filming in 1963, Bronston ordered yet another demolition, this time tearing down all the Chinese sets. The construction teams then rebuilt the Roman Forum for the third time on the exact same piece of land, using the same foundation work and topography that had already been used for two completely different historical periods. This bizarre recycling process meant that if you look carefully at both films, you can actually see similarities in the landscape and terrain between the Roman Forum and the Peking sets, since they were built on identical foundations. The wasteful process of building, demolishing, and rebuilding sets contributed significantly to the film's ballooning budget and financial troubles. Fact 3. A game show winner accidentally got into the movie. One ordinary television viewer became an accidental part of cinema history thanks to a bizarre prize giveaway on The Price is Right that connected a popular game show to one of Hollywood's most expensive epic films. During the early 1960s, when The Fall of the Roman Empire was in production, the producers came up with an unusual marketing strategy that involved giving away actual roles in the movie as prizes on television game shows. The Price is Right featured this role as a bonus prize, essentially offering contestants the chance to appear in a major Hollywood production alongside stars like Sophia Loren, Alec Guinness, and Christopher Plummer. The winner of this extraordinary prize was a man named Robert Reynolds, who probably had no idea when he stepped onto the game show stage that he would end up wearing a Roman costume and standing among thousands of extras in Spain. Reynolds traveled to the Spanish filming locations where producer Samuel Bronston had built his massive sets, and he was placed in one of the arena scenes that featured gladiatorial combat and crowd sequences. While most movie extras are hired through casting agencies and have some experience in film work, Reynolds was simply a regular person who happened to guess the right prices on a television game show. The fact that a game show contestant ended up in the background of such an expensive and ambitious historical epic represents one of the more unusual promotional tie-ins in Hollywood history. Most films promote themselves through traditional advertising and publicity campaigns, but the fall of the Roman Empire literally gave away pieces of itself as television prizes. Robert Reynolds can be spotted in the background during arena scenes, making him perhaps the only person to stumble into movie history purely by accident through a game show appearance. His presence in the film serves as a reminder of how different movie marketing was in the 1960s, when studios were willing to try almost anything to generate public interest in their productions. Fact 4. Sophia Loren arrived at Cannes riding a chariot. The 1964 Cannes Film Festival witnessed one of the most spectacular and unusual red carpet entrances in the event's history when Sophia Loren decided to promote the fall of the Roman Empire by literally bringing ancient Rome to the French Riviera. Instead of arriving in a traditional limousine or luxury car like other celebrities, Loren made her grand entrance to the festival premiere riding on an actual Roman chariot, complete with period-appropriate costume and dramatic flair. The Italian actress, who was at the height of her international fame and had recently become one of only 2 actresses to earn $1 million salary for a single film, understood the importance of creating memorable publicity moments. Her chariot entrance was carefully planned as a promotional stunt for the epic film, which was being screened out of competition at the prestigious festival in April of 1964. Festival attendees and photographers were stunned to see Loren arriving in full Roman regalia, essentially transforming the modern streets of Cannes into a scene from the ancient world. The chariot was likely one of the authentic props created for the film's production, giving festival-goers a taste of the elaborate production values that producer Samuel Bronston had invested in the epic. This dramatic entrance represented the kind of bold promotional thinking that characterized 1960s Hollywood marketing, when studios were willing to stage elaborate publicity stunts to generate media attention for their most expensive productions. The chariot arrival perfectly captured the grandeur and spectacle that the fall of the Roman Empire was trying to sell to audiences around the world. The stunt also demonstrated Loren's understanding of her star power and her willingness to fully commit to promoting her films, even if it meant riding through the streets of one of Europe's most sophisticated film festivals, dressed as a Roman noblewoman. The image of the glamorous actress on a chariot became an iconic moment that festival attendees would remember long after the screening ended. Fact 5. Alec Guinness and Christopher Plummer had chess battles behind the scenes. 2 of Britain's most distinguished actors turned their downtime on set into an intellectual battlefield that perfectly reflected their characters' relationship in the film. Alec Guinness, who played the wise philosopher Emperor Marcus Aurelius, and Christopher Plummer, who portrayed his corrupt son Commodus, spent their breaks between filming engaging in intense chess matches that were captured by behind-the-scenes cameras. The sight of these 2 theatrical legends hunched over a chessboard in full Roman costume created one of the most amusing and memorable moments from the production of The Fall of the Roman Empire. Guinness, known for his thoughtful and methodical approach to both acting and life, brought the same careful consideration to his chess strategy that he applied to his portrayal of the Stoic Emperor. Plummer, meanwhile, displayed the same dramatic flair and competitive spirit at the chess table that he brought to his performance as the megalomaniacal Commodus. The chess games became a form of friendly rivalry between the 2 actors, with each trying to outwit the other using strategy and patience rather than the swords and political maneuvering their characters employed on screen. These chess matches were documented in promotional footage that was later included in the film's marketing materials, showing audiences a lighter side of the epic production. The games provided a welcome break from the intense filming schedule in Spain, where the cast and crew were working with massive sets and thousands of extras in often challenging weather conditions. The intellectual nature of their off-screen competition seemed particularly fitting given that Marcus Aurelius was historically known as a philosopher-emperor who wrote the famous work Meditations, while Commodus was remembered as an emperor whose lack of wisdom contributed to the decline of Roman civilization. The chess battles between Guinness and Plummer created a real-world echo of the philosophical conflicts their characters represented in the film. Fact 6. The film was shot in snow during Europe's worst winter. Mother Nature provided one of the most challenging and unexpected backdrops for the fall of the Roman Empire, when filming took place during what meteorologists called one of Europe's worst winters in decades. The production, which was based outside Madrid in the Sierra de Guadarrama Mountains, began in late 1962 and continued into early 1963, right in the heart of this brutal winter season. The severe weather conditions created serious problems for the massive production, with heavy snowfall causing tents to collapse under the weight and forcing actors and crew members to bundle up in multiple layers of clothing between takes. The cast, who were supposed to be portraying Romans in warmer climates, had to endure freezing temperatures while wearing their period costumes, creating a surreal contrast between the ancient Mediterranean world they were creating and the harsh Spanish winter reality they were experiencing. Director Anthony Mann, however, saw an opportunity in this weather disaster and made one of the most inspired creative decisions of the entire production. When he woke up one morning to find fresh snow covering the landscape, Mann immediately called together his cast and crew to film the death scene of Marcus Aurelius in the unexpected winter setting. Mann later described his decision in interviews, explaining that he had always envisioned filming the emperor's death in snow and was thrilled when nature provided the perfect conditions. He called the snowy death scene marvelous because it gave the moment a silence and majesty that would never have been achieved on a sunny day or under any other weather conditions. The director's quick thinking and willingness to embrace the challenging weather conditions resulted in one of the film's most memorable and atmospheric sequences, where the philosophical emperor's final moments are surrounded by the peaceful quiet that only fresh snowfall can create. Fact 7. It holds the record for largest outdoor movie set ever. The fall of the Roman Empire created a piece of architectural history that still stands as an unbroken record more than 60 years after its construction, building the largest purpose-built outdoor film set ever created for a motion picture. The massive reconstruction of the Roman Forum covered an astounding 55 acres of Spanish countryside and measured exactly 1,312 feet by 754 feet, creating a full-scale replica of ancient Rome's most important public space. Producer Samuel Bronston spared no expense in creating this monumental set at his production facilities outside Madrid, hiring art directors Veniero Colasanti and John Moore to oversee the construction of what was essentially a functioning ancient city. The Forum set featured complete three-dimensional buildings with actual roofs and interiors, unlike many movie sets that only build facades or front walls with scaffolding behind them. The scale of the construction was so impressive that it became a tourist attraction in its own right, with Bronston actually offering guided tours of the sets to visitors who wanted to see this recreation of ancient Rome. These tours became part of the producer's marketing strategy, allowing people to walk through the same spaces where Sophia Loren, Alec Guinness, and Christopher Plummer were filming their scenes. The Forum set included detailed reproductions of temples, government buildings, shops, and public spaces that would have existed in Rome during the 2nd century, complete with authentic-looking marble columns, statues, and architectural details. The construction required hundreds of workers and took months to complete, representing one of the most ambitious set construction projects in movie history. Even today, with all the advances in computer-generated imagery and digital effects, no film production has attempted to build a larger outdoor set than the Roman Forum created for this epic. The record remains unbroken, a testament to the ambitious scale of 1960s Hollywood epic filmmaking when producers were willing to build entire ancient cities to tell their stories. Fact 8. Richard Harris was fired and later played the same character's father. Hollywood history created one of its most ironic casting stories when Richard Harris found himself on both sides of the same family dynasty, though separated by nearly 4 decades and 2 different film productions. Harris was originally cast as the corrupt Emperor Commodus in The Fall of the Roman Empire in August of 1962, but his time on the project was short-lived due to serious conflicts with director Anthony Mann. The Irish actor, known for his strong personality and uncompromising artistic vision, clashed repeatedly with Mann over creative decisions and the direction of his character. These artistic differences became so severe that Harris was fired from the production in January of 1963, just a few months before filming was scheduled to begin. Christopher Plummer was quickly brought in as his replacement, having pulled out of another film called The VIPS to take on the role of the Mad Emperor. Harris's dismissal from the project seemed to end his connection to this particular Roman story, but fate had other plans. In 2000, the director Ridley Scott released Gladiator, a film that borrowed heavily from the plot and characters of The Fall of the Roman Empire. focusing on the same historical period and the same imperial family. In a twist that no one could have predicted back in 1963, Harris was cast as Marcus Aurelius, the wise philosopher emperor who serves as Commodus's father in the story. This meant that the actor who was once fired from playing the son had returned to play the father in what was essentially a remake of the same basic story. The casting decision gave Harris the opportunity to portray the moral opposite of the character he was originally meant to play, transforming from the corrupt and violent Commodus into the thoughtful and noble Marcus Aurelius. Harris's performance as the dying emperor in Gladiator became one of his most memorable late-career roles, proving that sometimes being fired from one project can lead to an even better opportunity decades later. Fact 9. The film was never shown in its intended format. One of the most expensive films ever made at the time was never actually seen by audiences in the visual format that its creators had carefully planned and executed during production. The Fall of the Roman Empire was filmed using Ultra-Panavision 70mm cameras with an extremely wide aspect ratio of 2.76:1, which would have created an incredibly immersive and panoramic viewing experience that matched the epic scale of the story. This Ultra-Panavision format was specifically chosen to showcase the massive sets and sweeping battle scenes that producer Samuel Bronston had invested millions of dollars to create. The widescreen format would have allowed audiences to see the full scope of the recreated Roman Forum and the thousands of extras in the battle sequences, creating a visual spectacle that matched the ambition of the production. However, despite all the careful planning and expensive equipment used during filming, the movie was never actually projected in theaters using this intended format. Instead, when the film reached cinemas for its roadshow presentations, it was shown with a significantly smaller aspect ratio of 2.20:1 for 70mm screenings, and an even smaller 2.35:1 ratio when it was released in regular 35mm prints. This meant that audiences were essentially seeing a cropped version of the movie, missing significant portions of the image on both sides of the screen that director Anthony Mann and cinematographer Robert Krasker had composed specifically for the Ultra-Panavision format. The reduction in screen width diminished the visual impact of the elaborate sets and large-scale action sequences that were meant to be the film's main attractions. The technical reasons for this change likely involved the limited number of theaters equipped to handle the Ultra-Panavision format, but the result was that moviegoers never experienced the fall of the Roman Empire as its filmmakers had envisioned it, making the intended version of this epic essentially a lost film. Fact 10. Stephen Boyd blamed the movie for ruining his career. Stephen Boyd's decision to step into the role that Charlton Heston had abandoned would prove to be one of the most career-damaging choices an actor could make in 1960s Hollywood. Boyd, who had achieved major stardom playing the villain Messala opposite Heston in Ben-Hur just a few years earlier, seemed like a logical choice to carry a big-budget Roman epic as the heroic general Livius. The Irish actor was riding high on his success from Ben-Hur and had been building a reputation as a reliable leading man in epic productions, but the fall of the Roman Empire would mark a dramatic turning point in his career trajectory. Boyd took on the challenging role of the noble Roman general, who becomes caught between his loyalty to his friend Commodus and his duty to the empire, a complex character that required both physical presence and dramatic range. However, when the film was released in March of 1964, it became one of the most spectacular box office disasters in Hollywood history, earning only $4.8 million against its massive $16 to $20 million budget. The financial failure was so complete and devastating that it effectively ended the era of big-budget historical epics and bankrupted producer Samuel Bronston's Spanish production company. Boyd later spoke openly about how the film's commercial failure had destroyed his prospects as a leading man in major Hollywood productions. He blamed the massive flop for essentially ending his career as a star, as studios became reluctant to trust him with leading roles in expensive films after such a public and costly disaster. The actor's assessment proved accurate, as Boyd never again starred in a major epic production and found himself relegated to smaller films and character roles for the remainder of his career. His experience serves as a reminder of how a single box office failure, regardless of an actor's talent or previous successes, could completely derail a Hollywood career in the unforgiving studio system of the 1960s. Fact 11. The film bankrupted its producer. Despite government backing, the financial disaster of the fall of the Roman Empire was so severe that it completely destroyed the career of producer Samuel Bronston, who had built one of Europe's most ambitious film production empires with the backing of an entire national government. Bronston had established his production facilities outside Madrid with significant financial support from the Spanish government, which saw his epic films as a way to showcase Spain as a major filmmaking destination and boost the country's international prestige. Despite this powerful governmental backing and the success of his previous films like El Cid and King of Kings, Bronston found himself in desperate financial trouble just 2 months after the fall of the Roman Empire premiered in March of 1964. The film's catastrophic box office performance, earning less than $5 million against its massive budget, created a financial crisis that even government support couldn't solve. In June of 1964, Bronston Productions filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, reporting debts of over $5.6 million to Pierre S. DuPont III, who had provided guarantee bonds to help finance the completion of Bronston's films. The bankruptcy filing revealed the stunning extent of the financial disaster, showing that the producer owed millions of dollars to various creditors and investors who had believed in his vision of creating a Spanish Hollywood. The collapse was made even more dramatic by the fact that Bronston had been planning additional epic productions, including a film about Isabella of Spain that would have starred Glenda Jackson and John Philip Law. These ambitious projects were immediately cancelled when the bankruptcy was filed, effectively ending Bronston's dreams of establishing a permanent European alternative to Hollywood. During the bankruptcy proceedings, lawyers questioned Bronston under oath about his financial dealings, including whether he had maintained secret bank accounts in Zurich while running his company. The investigation revealed the complex international financing arrangements that had made his epic productions possible, but ultimately couldn't save his empire from complete collapse. Fact 12. Alec Guinness rewrote his own dialogue and never watched the film. One of Britain's most respected actors took an unusually detached approach to the fall of the Roman Empire, contributing significantly to the script while simultaneously maintaining complete distance from the final product. Alec Guinness, who portrayed the philosopher Emperor Marcus Aurelius, reportedly rewrote many of his own lines during production, using his deep understanding of classical literature and philosophy to improve the dialogue for his character. Guinness brought his scholarly knowledge and theatrical experience to bear on the role of Marcus Aurelius, crafting speeches and conversations that better reflected the historical emperor's reputation as a thoughtful leader and author of the famous work, Meditations. His revisions helped create some of the film's most memorable moments, as he transformed what might have been generic epic dialogue into something more authentic and philosophically meaningful. However, despite his creative investment in improving the script, Guinness maintained a remarkable level of professional detachment from the overall production. He later admitted in interviews that he never saw more than 20 minutes of the film that he had helped create, showing little interest in viewing his own performance or the epic spectacle that surrounded it. During the filming in Spain, Guinness preferred to retreat to a 16th-century farmhouse that he shared with fellow actor Anthony Quayle, rather than socializing with the cast and crew or engaging with the massive production happening around him. This private retreat allowed him to escape from the chaos of the large-scale filming and maintain his focus on his specific role without getting caught up in the broader Hollywood machinery. Guinness's approach to the film reflected his general attitude toward filmmaking, where he treated each role as a professional job to be completed with excellence, but without the emotional investment or ego attachment that many actors brought to major productions. His ability to contribute meaningfully to the script while remaining personally detached from the final result demonstrated his unique professional philosophy and artistic discipline. Fact 13. The movie features a hidden early Christian symbol. Hidden in plain sight throughout the fall of the Roman Empire is a subtle religious reference that most viewers never notice. Despite the symbol appearing on screen repeatedly during the film's 3-hour runtime, the character Timonides, played by James Mason, wears a distinctive pendant around his neck that appears to be simply a decorative piece of jewelry, but it actually represents one of the earliest symbols used by Christians in the Roman Empire. The pendant that Timonides wears is called a staurogram, which is formed by combining the Greek letters tau and rho to create an early representation of the cross. This symbol predated the more familiar Latin cross that most people associate with Christianity today, and it was used by early Christian communities during the 2nd and 3rd centuries as a way to identify themselves to fellow believers while remaining inconspicuous to Roman authorities. The inclusion of this symbol was historically appropriate for the time period depicted in the film, as Christianity was beginning to spread throughout the Roman Empire during the reign of Marcus Aurelius in the late 2nd century. However, The filmmakers chose to make this the only reference to Christianity in the entire movie, avoiding any direct discussion of the religious changes that were beginning to transform Roman society. Most audiences watching the film would have no idea of the religious significance of Timonedes' pendant, seeing it simply as part of his costume as a Greek philosopher and former slave who serves as advisor to Marcus Aurelius. The storogram blends seamlessly into the character's appearance without calling attention to itself or interrupting the film's focus on political and military themes. This hidden Christian symbol represents a sophisticated choice by the filmmakers to acknowledge the historical reality of early Christianity's presence in the Roman Empire without making it a central plot element. The storogram serves as an Easter egg for viewers knowledgeable about early Christian history, while remaining invisible to those unfamiliar with ancient religious symbols. Fact 14. Sophia Loren became only the second $1 million actress. Sophia Loren made Hollywood history with the fall of the Roman Empire by becoming only the second actress ever to earn $1 million for a single film performance, joining an exclusive club that had previously included only Elizabeth Taylor for her role in Cleopatra the year before. This astronomical salary reflected Loren's status as one of the most popular international stars of the early 1960s, when she was named the most beloved actress among British audiences. The Italian star's $1 million payday was a calculated gamble by producer Samuel Bronston, who believed that Loren's global appeal and stunning screen presence would help sell tickets around the world for his expensive Roman epic. Her salary alone represented a significant portion of the film's overall budget, demonstrating just how much faith the producers had in her ability to draw audiences to theaters. Loren's casting and enormous salary became part of the film's marketing campaign, with publicity materials emphasizing that audiences would be seeing one of the world's highest-paid actresses in a role that showcased her beauty and dramatic talents. The $1 million figure was considered so newsworthy that entertainment reporters frequently mentioned it in their coverage of the production. However, this record-breaking salary also contributed significantly to the film's financial problems, as the production needed to earn back not just the costs of the massive sets and thousands of extras, but also the unprecedented amounts paid to its major stars. When the film failed to attract sufficient audiences at the box office, earning less than $5 million total, Loren's $1 million salary became a symbol of the production's financial excess. The actress's historic payday represented the peak of 1960s star salaries for epic productions, but it also demonstrated how quickly Hollywood's economics were changing as television began to challenge the dominance of big-budget theatrical films. After the fall of the Roman Empire, studios became much more cautious about paying such enormous salaries to individual performers. Fact 15. Parts of the sets were recycled into a comedy movie. The expensive sets that helped bankrupt Samuel Bronston's production company found new life in an unexpected place when pieces of the fall of the Roman Empire were literally recycled into a completely different kind of movie just 2 years later. After the main Roman Forum set was demolished following the completion of filming, several of the smaller sets and architectural pieces were carefully salvaged and stored rather than being completely destroyed. These surviving set pieces were then transported and rebuilt for the 1966 musical comedy A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, which starred Zero Mostel and was based on the popular Broadway show by Stephen Sondheim. The comedy was also set in ancient Rome, making the recycled sets a perfect fit for the new production, though the tone and style of the films could not have been more different. The production team for the comedy deliberately transformed the appearance of these sets to match their much more lighthearted and irreverent approach to ancient Rome. Where the fall of the Roman Empire had presented pristine, newly constructed buildings that looked like they had just been completed by the finest Roman architects, the comedy needed sets that looked lived in and realistic for everyday Roman citizens. To achieve this completely different look, the set decorators intentionally muddied up the salvaged pieces, adding dirt, wear marks, and weathering effects to make the buildings appear older and more authentic. They wanted the sets to look like real Roman structures that had been used by ordinary people for years, rather than the gleaming imperial palaces and temples that had appeared in the epic. This transformation was so successful that audiences watching A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum would never have guessed they were looking at recycled pieces from one of Hollywood's most expensive disasters. The sets had been given a completely new personality that perfectly matched the comedy's more down-to-earth and humorous take on life in ancient Rome.